Chelli here, correct?
With Chelli.
All right. Well, how do you like to come up?
And Meredith is here as well, our
Yes.
editor and co-producer.
The battery on this is dying.
Oh, well, here. Okay. Here we go.
Thank you.
Well, answer questions in just a couple minutes, but I just kind of like to say, what a wonderful film. Thank you that you were able to get the vulnerability of such a story and the healing. It helps all of us. And maybe kind of start with how you all met. Are you filmmakers here in LA?
Yes.
And you live in Chicago now still?
Chicago, correct.
Okay,
Well, we used to live in LA, or
Okay.
in Chicago, I mean, so that's how we met.
okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think Chelli invited us to an open studio that she was having for the launch of Dusk, her collection. And that evening, we were just really struck by her work and just the visuals of it. It was just, so beautiful. And at the time, we were wanting to make like a little like 5-minute artist piece. So we approached her and we said, hey, what would you think about us making a little movie, a little video about you, just to throw up on like Vimeo or something. And she said, yeah, and so we grabbed coffee and we asked her about her story and how she got into what she was doing, and she told us the story of her sister. And that just kind of surprised us, made us, we were like, wow, not really sure how to proceed with that. But we started filming with her, and it was just very quickly, we realized that that story and that motivation, that legacy, really was in every aspect of what she did. And a couple weeks turned into a few months, turned into 3 years. And then we had a feature film on our hands.
I like to say we accidentally made a documentary. That took 6 years, so.
Still never got the promo video. I got something even better.
Who has a question? Oh? Oh, well, wait, we'll have more conversation maybe. Oh, here you go. Sorry, thanks.
First of all, just what a beautiful film, and really intimate portrait, and just thank you to all of you for sharing that. I have two parts. First, for the filmmakers, there was this moment that was really stood out to me, and I guess I just kind of, this is one of those questions that's also just wanting to see if I'm right about something. But Chelli, your work in the workspace is portrayed so clean, even in the beginning, laying out the raw material the entire time, and then you come to this moment where she's using the small Dremel, I think, and there's just this, and that's also juxtaposed with talking about the trial and how intentional was that. I found that really striking and powerful. I was just wondering if.
Well, I could just, I know that's when she's like doing the edging of the leather, is that what you're
Yes,
talking about?
and it's on the glasses and the fingers, and
Yeah,
suddenly it's
yeah.
like that one time that felt like very unclean.
Meredith, why don't you talk about your editing decision?
It felt right. I don't know. I just found that footage really, it did stand out, and it was very different, very messy, and like I was worried about her eyes a lot, like the dust getting in her eyes. It just felt like emotionally appropriate to start talking about the messier stuff that you were feeling emotionally.
You're taking something that's rough, it's been cut, and you're smoothing it and getting ready to put the, remind me of the term, the glue or the polish on the edge, so that the raw edge becomes a finished edge and won't shed over time. So you're preparing it for that. So I think in a lot of the things that she was talking about, that stage was like kind of what she was going through. She was like not ready to be like go to you weren't quite ready for healing. You were still kind of on your journey in that moment.
Okay.
I didn't even see that. I love that. I'm writing that out.
You had another question.
Yes, and then Chelli, for you, I'm just so curious if you like what the next phase is for you, if you found that and the film kind of leads you in that place. And I know post takes a long time, and where are you at now?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I am now a very proud mother of a near 2-year-old. His name is Monte. He's been an incredible new pink in the sky. I'm also the regional visual merchandiser for, ironically enough, an Italian luxury brand. And I'm starting something that is on the horizon, is to be working with a brand to do some direction with them. So, and I've seen the state of the handbag industry. I will not keep silent too much longer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I thought it was really beautiful that you have these young girl apprentices and interns, and I think it's great that you are doing that, and I wonder if any part of that is you being a big sister now to these girls after the loss of your big sister.
That's a really beautiful question. It could perhaps have subconsciously been that. I think something that I firmly believe as an artist, and it was mentioned a little bit in here, is I believe in being a forever student of what you do, and I believe a lot in generosity, and I think truly the only way to be somebody who can give is somebody who knows how to receive. And I think to live a life of generosity, you have to be in a place of staying in that flow. And so I make a way for myself to be under the mentorship of some people, but I don't want it to ever just stop with me. I think it should be a flow. And so to me, it's important to always have around me in some capacity somebody to pour into, and not to just keep to myself what I receive. But I had honestly never considered it in the way that you just framed it, and that's something I would love to sit and process with. So thank you for pointing that out.
Other questions? Sure.
I don't actually have a question, I just have something to share from your message. The great entertainer, Mickey Rooney, once said that forgiveness is the only power that we all possess.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, that message especially is very prominent and pertinent, very important right now. There's another question?
2.
Oh.
Just a comment and a question. The beauty of the clouds was incredible, and I love how you set up each section with how the clouds lit up or darkened. You just beautiful visual metaphors. Did you shoot that all separately after you'd done the story? Okay. Because it was so stunning, and then the music tied in perfectly with those movements. I've been crying the whole time.
Yeah, we shot all of that separate, and I'm speaking because Blue kicked me out at like 4 in the morning every morning to go shoot so many sunrises, and most of them didn't work out. And I'd be pointing my camera this way, and then the clouds this way would be pink, and I would be like, oh, like, what a disappointment. So I had to learn. I started bringing multiple cameras. I mean, half of those were shot on my iPhone because I'm just like, as a backup angle, I'm gonna point it this way, and it turned out like that's where the pretty light was.
Yeah, I was just also going to add to that. So I think, as you've seen in the film, that light is an inspiration behind each bag, and so we really wanted to reflect that in terms of the B-roll that we got through about the sunrises and sunsets, and have those moments be a reflection of what was happening during the story. So we were, I mean, a lot of it was like a catch-all, to like, let's just shoot as many as we can and then see what fits, but there were specific times where, we were like, I think we really need, a light, like coming around a building and things like that.
I mean, I think you could talk about how the movie is a reflection and talk about the book briefly.
Sure.
Yeah, one little thing, so we made these booklets and they're outside if you'll want to get them on your way out. But they are, stills from the film are in there, but there's also artwork that we commissioned a few artists to do in reflection of the film. Because, this film is like all about processing through your art and your art reflecting what is going on in your life. And that's kind of the theme that we carry through in this book. So there's some art and poetry in here that you can look at and read, and then there's also a space in the middle that's blank for you to then create your own artwork.
They're in a box in the back, so if you didn't get one on the way in, make sure you get one on the way in.
Thank you for that thought. Okay.
Yeah, thank you for sharing this inspiring story. So I'm a music composer, so I have a question actually about the music. So the beautiful music just play through from the beginning at the end, almost like back to back. So I'm really curious about the workflow looks like working with a composer and then your approach to music.
Yeah, we were bummed that Silas couldn't be here. He was going to come, but then some things came up. But we worked with him in his LA studio, and we kind of asked him, what his process was. We wanted to go into his process, and he watched the movie, and we were gonna do. He had originally asked us, could we send him some themes and things that we were thinking about. And then he sent a follow-up email very quickly after it, in the middle of the night, and he was like, never mind, I'm really inspired. We're like, great, go for it. And then from there, we just sat in with him over the course of like a month, maybe? A month and a half? Or
writing was
yeah.
like,
Yeah, I think writing was maybe like 3 or 4 months, but then
Yeah.
like recording was another couple months.
Right.
Yeah.
Like we would come in and listen to the temp tracks that he had created, and gave some tweaks. And the hardest track actually, that funny enough that we struggled with, was the Horween scene, because we kept saying like it's like a kid in a candy shop, like she's like, and he originally made this like kind of carnival-y type like track, and we're like, no, never mind, it's not quite like that, and we're like, it's like that, but it's like more dreamy and magical, and he ended up getting it. So it was a really fun process to try to communicate our vision and combine it with his and see what he could come up with.
The film is kind of a little bit structured through vignettes, so there's not maybe an overarching theme of music that we come back to. We have a tone and a voice that's in all of the music, but we were content and comfortable to let the vignette of that moment be that particular like part of the soundtrack. So does that make sense?
Yes, thank you for sharing.
Awesome film, everyone. Congratulations. I was curious, when you started filming, did you know that you'd be going on the Italy chapter, or like, what did you know when you started the movie versus like, where did it go that surprised you?
Yeah, or I can do it if you want.
What did we know? Well, we know that we liked her bags. That's what we knew.
Yeah.
And we knew that we were just really drawn to Chelli. I think, she when she walks into a room, she carries a presence with her that is hard to miss. And then we were also just really impacted by the story that she had of forgiveness, and just the radical choice that she made. And so that's how it began, and I think it kind of began as us, seeing her grow, seeing her create, seeing her build her business, and then also have this story and seeing like where all this was coming from. And then we kind of realized that she wasn't necessarily like putting 2 and 2 together, of that the reason why she called her collection Dawn Dusk was because Dawn and Dusk were the most faithful things to her during this really dark time in her life. And we saw that, and we were like, well, how do we get her to make that connection? And so it just kind of unfolded over the course of us asking the right questions, and she likes to joke that she had 3 years of free therapy. And yeah, and then it was really amazing just to see her kind of process, like, oh yeah, this is why I like sunrises and sunsets. Like this is why they're so meaningful to me, because they're the only thing I had to hold on to. And yeah, and then from there, it was kind of a wild ride.
Yeah, I mean, just to give you a sense practically, a month in, she's like, can I cut my hair? And do we need to be continuity? And we're like, no, cut your hair. And then she shaved it off. Then like one day she's like, hey, I'm going to Florence for a 3-month sabbatical. And we were like, oh, okay, I guess we'll figure out how to go and like be with you. Then she comes home and we hadn't been filming for a while and we were in post and we were trying to figure out how to end this story. And frankly, I don't know if we had an ending and we were kind of struggling a little bit. We were getting there, and then she calls us and she's like, hey, I'm closing the CHC, I'm closing my business, I'm not making bags anymore. And we're like, oh, like, we'll pick the camera back up, and we started filming more, and that actually gave us this natural conclusion to this very specific and distinct chapter in your life. And then we still didn't know how to, this is the kind of movie where we worked with Meredith to put the structure of the movie is not really linear until we get to Florence. After Florence, it becomes a little bit more procedural, but the first hour of the movie, we just let whatever emotionally needed to be on screen, and we could not have done that without sitting for hours and hours on Saturdays every weekend with Meredith. Like, while she had just spent her whole week full-time editing for another project, and then Saturdays would spend those days with us as we put it together. And when you have a script, you can put it, you know how to edit at least the basics. But with this, we could kind of put anything anywhere. And so Meredith really helped us take the emotional moments and put them in the right spots for the right moment in the story.
Okay. More questions? Okay, a couple more. While I'm coming back there, I do have one. What about funding? How did that happen? It's 6 years plus?
Good question.
Well, it's a small movie. We mostly made it. I own a little gear. I shot most of it. You shot some of it. I own some lighting, so most of that was just like us doing that.
Lots of trips up the freight elevator,
Yeah.
Chelli's studio building.
And for the most part, I would say this movie is like 90%, 80 to 90% self-financed. We did a little bit of crowdfunding, so you saw those credits at the end where people who contributed at varying levels.
And we had the small DCASE grant
Yeah.
that was close to when we were finishing production.
Yeah.
We got like a small grant.
Yeah, but funding mostly came from us, and I think we were able to do that because we kind of are able to wear a lot of hats. And then people were highly underpaid, like Meredith.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, hey you guys. I just want to first congratulate you on all of the work. I think it's so well done. It's so visceral. The auditory element of your film as well, and the editing, of course, it's just brilliant. And I was thinking about your relationship. Maybe it's more of a question for Chelli, but I think that documentaries like this, when you really feel the heart and the truth coming out from someone, it becomes such an intimate and personal portrait. But I think that it's probably due, and I've met you, Jason and Blue, now, and I realized how special you are and how much you care about Chelli and this project. So I'm just kind of curious to hear from Chelli maybe about how your relationship with them, because obviously you opened up in such a personal way and told a story so hard and beautiful at the same time, and seeing your work ethic and the way you live your life, I think you might not have given out so much or let it be so personal if it wasn't people like Jason, Blue. Do you want to just elaborate on that? Thank you.
I feel like you hit the nail on the head. You brilliantly answered your own question, but I can speak to certainly affirming how highly you speak of them as individuals. It is not easy to share all of this, but I also think having unique and digging questions can spark a lot from a person without even realizing it. There would be questions that they would ask me that, thank God for editing, I would have to sit for a while and just think about it to not really know how I felt about something. That's why I joked about it being therapy, because they also made it a very safe space for me. I was not forced to share anything I didn't want to share. They were very intentional about making sure that I was okay before the filming, that I was okay with the questions being asked. And so when you have somebody who's prioritizing your heart and your mind before the content, it makes it a safe space. And that was something that they were consistently doing just through the character of who they were. And they would share some of themselves as well. They didn't leave me to just be having a bleeding heart in front of them. They would share where they could of what aligned with my story and give me some of themselves as well. So there were moments of exchange that I think continued to make it a safe space for this to come out. And I was even finding the more that I shared, the more healing it was bringing me. And so initially it was excellent questions in a safe space, but as the process continued, I was starting to see some of the fruit of sharing for myself, of how even more liberating it was becoming for me. And if that was liberating me, then is by sharing this story going to help somebody else? Like, that's fuel for sure.
Beautiful, thank you.
I think we asked you at one point, what is the meaning of art? And you were like, really?
Come on, guys.
Out of what you just shared, Chelli, my question is, are you still involved with Wings or mentoring other ways, and the healing that comes from this, may it help others that have gone through a partner, somebody being taken so unexpectedly, to have that healing for themselves, to be a contribution?
So my relationship with Wings concluded right before 2020, and their dynamic completely had to shift with the events of 2020. So I'm not directly involved in the ways that I was with them prior to. And being that I don't have the business anymore, I obviously don't have interns or apprentices, but relationships still continue, and the ability to share part of my journey with other people. And now in the career that I have right now, the teams that I've had, it's created a space for me to exercise that muscle of growing people, building people through story and creativity has continued on, just in a different way.
How fabulous. I don't want to conclude this. I know we were all fascinated, but we do need to clear this space for the next theater showing at 5. So if you would like, other people can meet with you outside or go upstairs to the cafe to continue your conversation and acknowledge you. We thank you for the courage it takes to do this, and more coming from you. Thank you.
We'll be outside, and there's the books in the back.
Yeah.
And thank you to AmDocs and
Yes.
everyone, all
Yes.
the filmmakers we've met and all the volunteers you guys have made us feel. And to Chuck, our host, homestay host, you guys have made us feel so welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yay. It's a team, it's a community here. Thank you all.